The rain poured relentlessly as Leah Price approached the entrance of the elite Botanical Garden, her heart pounding beneath her sodden thrift store raincoat. Her modest clothes clung to her, saturated by the unexpected downpour she had trudged through to reach this oasis of horticultural wonder. Her worn-out boots squelched with each step, splattered with mud, adding to the whispers trailing behind her. The horticultural haven was a triumphant sanctuary of nature, even under the bleak weather. Exotic plants spread meticulously through the gardens, kissed by rain that only enhanced their vibrant hues. Glass greenhouses refracted the silvery light into prisms across perfectly curated lawns, and the air was thick with the aroma of wet earth interwoven with the delicate undertones of exotic flowers. Leah took a moment to breathe in the tranquil atmosphere despite her cold, clammy discomfort. Her eyes lingered over the rare plant species, drinking in their beauty. The lush greenery contrasted starkly with her washed-out attire. Unfortunately, her presence was met with disdainful scrutiny. Nudging each other, visitors cast dismissive glances her way, faces twisted in judgment. "Did you see her shoes?" a patron snorted to a companion. "Like she's just come from a farm." Ridiculous. The head gardener, a tall, impeccably dressed figure in a fitted green uniform with polished shoes, noticed Leah immediately. His eyebrows arched as he took in her bedraggled appearance, eyes narrowing with an unspoken verdict that she was a disruption. Leah caught snippets of nearby gossip as giggling voices issued disparaging remarks. "Must have blown in with the storm," someone jeered, and laughter spread like wildfire. Determined to ignore the scorn, Leah pressed onward but felt the weight of their ridicule pushing against her, dampening her spirits like the rain streaming down her back. Leah tried to take her place amongst the garden's patrons unobtrusively, but the head gardener, known for his lofty gatekeeping of this elite world, decided to intervene. "Excuse me, miss," he began, approaching her with an officious air that barely masked his disdain. His voice was smooth, cultivated for diplomacy, but his eyes betrayed a condescending edge. "Are you aware of where you are? We must take great care to preserve the fragile habitats here. Perhaps you might be more comfortable viewing from a distance where there's less risk of damage." Leah steadied herself, meeting his gaze with an apologetic smile. "Yes, I understand the rarity of these specimens. I assure you, I'm here to appreciate the beauty and significance of what you've cultivated." He pivoted to the small crowd gathering, his public derision crafted not to help Leah but to diminish her. "Our gardens welcome spectators who appreciate our efforts. However, its delicacy demands a gentle touch and clear respect of its sanctity." The emphasis on clear respect lingered in the air, subtly casting Leah as the antithesis of his words. Onlookers whispered behind cupped hands, phones subtly aimed at the scene unfolding. Leah's cheeks burned under their scrutinizing eyes, her initial excitement worn down to raw nerves. She could sense every candid snapshot capturing her discomfort, a digital record of her inadequacy in the face of such judgment. Despite the rain, despite the cold tightening her muscles, Leah took a steadying breath, confusion and embarrassment turning her voice tremulous but firm. "I'm here to enjoy the garden, like everyone else. Rain doesn't lessen the beauty of these plants, if anything, it enriches their story." The gardener's thin smile didn't reach his eyes. He turned, nodding to a nearby staff member with a silent command. "Let's ensure all our guests respect the plant's well-being. Please guide this young woman to a more appropriate viewing area." Leah found herself ushered to a far bench under a sprawling oak, its branches offering scant cover from the unrelenting rain. It was secluded, away from the curated highlights of the garden, where the occasional visitor stumbled upon her, not out of interest in the vegetation, but amusement at the spectacle. Droplets slid from her hair into rivulets down her face, indistinguishable from the tears she fought to keep from falling. Her original enthusiasm now felt foolish, a dream slipping away in a puddle beneath her boots. Around her, the garden continued its tranquil display, indifferent to the human dramas playing out under its canopy. The patrons resumed their tour with heightened animation, many casting sneaky glances back at Leah, eager for more fodder to fill their social channels with her less-than-ideal visit. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, social media notifications hinting at the same ridicule accumulating online. In those endless minutes stretched by expectation and exclusion, Leah's fingers traced the outline of the small plant tucked discreetly in her coat. Its presence grounded her. Despite the humiliation, she understood that her love for plants transcended the opinions of others, a passion undeterred by disdain. The cruel twist of the situation was that her companions didn't know her mission today, to present her discovery, a new orchid as yet unseen by this very society she admired. The rain intensified, the murmurs of nature and man melding into a symphonic reminder she was nearly alone in that space. She wanted nothing more than to shrink from sight, to make this day fade like the rain evaporating in the sun. Still, she knew there might be one chance to correct this wrong, but she had to endure, to persevere. Soaked but resolute, Leah searched for a moment of inner calm, her disheartened spirit buoyed by the rhythm of rainfall on the surrounding leaves. Her embarrassment would pass, leaving only what mattered, the rare life moving gently, unseen, beneath her clothes. Still, the cold sank deeper with the realization that, in a place meant for beauty, she had found judgment instead. None had intervened, none had stood to say the plants could take care of themselves. None except the figure now approaching, a spark of something different than the previous exchanges. A young assistant wearing the garden's green uniform hustled toward her, a silver envelope clutched in hand. Curiosity piqued Leah's isolation. Gasps circled the nearby visitors. The assistant, a slender young man with a nervous energy about him, stopped in front of her, slightly out of breath but smiling with a soft sincerity. "Miss Price?" His voice was gentle, and his eyes met hers with notable kindness, a stark contrast to the reception she'd endured so far. "Yes?" Leah responded, suspicion mingling with hope as she grasped for its trailing threads. "Apologies for the delay. The management asked me to deliver this. There's a special event awaiting your presence in the main greenhouse." He offered her the envelope, the heft of its embossed papers conveying an unmistakable importance. Leah hesitated, fingers lingering over the crisp seal before accepting it. Around her, the collective interest crystallized into an intimate silence, the kind that hinted the scales were about to tip. She felt the latent potential bristling along her skin, questioning how quickly the winds of perception might change in the breaths of a single moment. All at once, the attention reshaped, eyes turned swiftly from scorn to speculation, anticipation crackling. Those who had laughed at her now shared glances, whispering under their breaths as if the touch of the assistant's words had conjured an enchantment they hadn't recognized before. Without further prompting, Leah rose, the crowd parting like a river before her resolve, and followed her guide, the invisible burden lessened from her shoulders while yet something more profound beckoned ahead. She understood her purpose here might be to shift the narrative, not just of her place within these gardens, but of what truly deserved admiration, beyond polished appearances to the tenacity of roots and blooms, resilient and unconquered beneath the rain. A story yet to unfold, somewhere between the blades of grass they had dismissed. Inside the sanctuary of his private office, the head gardener retreated to a world sculpted by ambition and pristine order. The walls were lined with awards and accolades, tangible reminders of his dedication to the prestigious glasshouses and sprawling grounds over which he reigned supreme. He paused at the expansive window, peering out over the resplendent landscape where drama had previously unfolded. "I've kept the integrity of this place," he remarked to his assistant, a young woman steadily observing his growing unease, as he sipped the fresh-brewed tea. "It's necessary to maintain a standard. People like that," he waved dismissively toward where Leah had been, "threaten the brand we've cultivated. This garden cannot fall prey to carelessness." The assistant nodded, aware of her superior's long-standing pride. "Of course. But should we not give room for new audiences, sir?" Her voice was cautious, knowing when to challenge his worldview, and when to let it drift unchecked. He mulled over her suggestion briefly before brushing it aside, smug certainty lining his expression. "It's not a matter of audience, it's preservation. True appreciation requires understanding." As the clouds outside lightened to a dull gray, signaling a retreat from nature's earlier fury, Leah Price found herself in another corner of the vast garden. The greenhouse loomed ahead, a clandestine world of glass and life. She could sense its significance, an unspoken boundary waiting to be crossed. The assistant beside her offered a tentative smile, perhaps sensing her renewed turmoil beneath the composure. No more unwelcome company for now. His voice carried reassurance, a buoy in the treacherous sea Leah had been navigating. Leah reciprocated his kindness, precariously balanced between nervous jitters and the familiar warmth that returns with kindness. "I hope it won't take long to explain the misunderstanding," she ventured, as if testing the waters between worlds. "I meant no harm." The assistant shook his head. "Once they hear you, they'll understand more than an initial judgment." "You're more than welcome," he assured her as he gestured toward the entrance. Inside the great glasshouse, Leah found herself a spectator to her own unveiling upon entering a warm, humid corridor crammed with botanical wonders. The vibrant greens and fiery petals extended their silent greetings. She felt a tacit promise of acceptance. Amid this oasis gave rise to human anticipation. Figures awaited her, some visitors who had glimpsed earlier scenes and were now eager to exchange dispassionate conversations for engaging stories of Leah's designs. They stood near plants bathed in the mellow glow of golden lamps. Leah took the platform with grace, drawing courage from a renewed sense of belonging. As she stood before them, the neatly dressed green-sashed garden management secured attention further, announcing her role as dignified custodian of a botanical spirit too often eclipsed by chilly propriety. Her voice rose, confident against the echoes, as she relayed the adventure that had incubated her newest orchid. She spoke of trekking across damp, veiled rainforests, listening to the whispers of orchids swaying beneath canopies, their enigmatic charm linked to secrets of color and form. She held the small plant in her hand, now free of its concealment, allowing the room to appreciate its unprecedented hue, variegated unlike any known cousin. Eyes widened, growing round with wonder at the fragile brilliance suspended there, alight under greenhouse lamps. The room hushed as Leah continued her story, each word weaving admiration for the hybrid bloom she had discovered amid chaos and determination. The onlookers surrounding her leaned forward, captivated by descriptions of colorful tapestries only nature in wild excess dared to unfurl. Leah explained her choice to carry it close, outside the showcase, sheltered from spectacle. The orchid held a personalized narrative sparked by curiosity, carved by moments sunk in wilderness paths where knowledge bore yet a different worth. It was unlike the horticulture academic accolades lining her resume. This was instinctual creativity. An older man near the front brightened with comprehension. "So you nurture both plant and place with unexpected mettle," he remarked, causing others to nod in agreement. Smiles began to spread, warm enough to melt icy skepticism. Apologies replaced murmurs within hushed corners. The patrons realized their haste to dismiss had neglected to see she was already of them, sacrificing luxuries to bear forward rarities in her unstoppable quest. Meanwhile, the head gardener lingered at the edge of the greenhouse, caught between the stark walls of his zealotry and the evidence of their limitations. Each word Leah shared dissolved another abrasive refrain he'd thought unassailable: excellence demands exclusion, access requires pretense. His infamous facade unraveled slowly, humiliation mingling with awe at Leah's poise. She'd navigated adversity without contrition or scorn, uplifting what could not be bought or simply shown. As the presentation concluded, the garden staff welcomed Leah with gestures encircling her and the precious plant. The patrons now steered away from idle filming and captured her scene anew, curiosity and astonishment their audience. The unease Leah had harbored since disembarking earlier faded like the rolling clouds. She felt vindicated against presumptions stretched thin by the rare flora in her possession, worthy by her own devotion. The morning's mob turned circles, converging conversationally with talk of beauty both unexpected and uncounted. Like the orchids had mystically blended their sanguine shades, she recognized the shift in their tone, attributes yielded to purpose more profound than superficial segregation. Beyond the glass behind her, the rain had ceased its vigilant drumming. Steam began spiraling from creaking boughs, kissing the sky with leaf-driven aromas, nature unable to hold its own quiet ecstasy. And there he stood, the head gardener strained for words. All certainties saw transformation in a moment forged by Leah's truth. From his office to here, he understood at last, the walls he'd built had merely locked away a potential no mere accolades could cultivate. From his shadow, a silent bow as acknowledgement, an admission of things unseen, the taken guilt and mistaken guidance would not linger, but rather fade and reform into rue, demanding its keeper's rise and redemption. The crowd shifted subtly, tides changed forever beneath new skies overhead, marking the advent of Leah's flourishing connection as light pierced through rain-cleansed air to guide them forward. The majestic greenhouse, alive with floral resplendency, had never hosted a scene quite like this. After Leah's heartfelt presentation, garden management formally introduced her to the guests, elevating her from a seemingly misplaced visitor to a celebrated botanist. The journey from outsider to center stage was complete in an astonishing turn of events that unfolded with the seamless grace of a well-tended vine unfurling its leaves toward the sun. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced the garden's patron, a well-dressed man who radiated both authority and warmth, "allow me to introduce Leah Price, whose incredible work with orchids has contributed significantly to our botanical collection." His voice resonated throughout the grand space, mingling with the growing chatter of excitement. The assembled guests, who had once exchanged sneers and whispers, now murmured with intrigue and admiration. The revelation rippled through the greenhouse as quickly as sunlight breaking through clouds. Leah was presented not as just any botanist but as the discoverer of a rare orchid species, one that promised to reshape their horticultural understanding and prestige. Their reactions were immediate and dramatic. A collective gasp swept over the attendees, surprise mirrored on faces that had earlier worn smirks. The disconnect was palpable. Those who had smirked at her were now left slack-jawed, disbelief casting shadows across their now apologetic expressions. As Leah stood on the makeshift podium, her gentle smile and quiet strength formed an unspoken testament to her unyielding dedication. The audience buzzed, most trying to extend small gestures of approval or silently absorb the paradigm shift she had orchestrated. Their phones, once poised to capture her discomfort, now documented her triumph. The head gardener, a figure once poised with authority, stood motionless on the periphery, his disbelief laid bare. The certainty, which had animated his sneering confidence in maintaining exclusivity, wavered. He fought to compose himself against the tide of realization sweeping through him as despair mingled with reluctant admiration. Leah's demeanor was transformative, subtly shifting the dynamic in favor of inclusion and discovery. She refrained from gloating, her grace fittingly embodied the serene resilience of the orchids she nurtured. Emphasizing the beauty in coexistence, her presence was a reminder of nature's true, unostentatious generosity. "I've always believed in the stories that plants tell," Leah spoke to the assembly, her words measured like drops of steady rain nurturing parched earth. "This little orchid, and many others, has been crafted by nature's hands, but its life and beauty are meant to be shared, not guarded jealously." She recounted with curated eloquence her rainy expeditions into the depths of wild landscapes where she first chanced upon her orchid. She described days cloaked in mud, nourished by rain, each day chipping away the margins of discovery until finally a bloom, unseen before, graced her dedication. Her success story was underscored by her choice of simplicity and substance over material embellishment. Leah explained her vow to dress humbly, a conscious decision imprinted from the ecosystems she protected. "You see, for Leah, adornment lay in the orchid's pigment as vast and varied as folktales, not in the polish of gowns or jewels." The guests listened intently, some nodding in newfound respect for the humility balancing her expertise. Others internalized the depth of her commitment, confronting their earlier judgments. It was evident to everyone now, the character one displayed amid extravagance wasn't to be taken at face value, but instead read deeply, like the inscriptions on ancient leaves. With Leah's gentle soul capturing the room's heart, attention shifted from exclusionary tactics to inclusive growth, a beneficial, collaborative ethos. Her orchid became both a scientific marvel and a metaphorical bridge to mend the perceptions previously divided by mere appearances. Amidst this revelatory moment, Leah's presence exuded an unassailable elegance that contrasted sharply with the structured snobbishness surrounding her, which now slowly unraveled. Her authenticity provided a stark, emotional payoff that resonated across societal layers. The greenhouses that had earlier been a source of anxiety now thrummed with an awakened charge like no botanical acquisition had ever evoked. Leah's orchids carried the promise of something greater, a living symbol of unity embracing the whole spectrum of nature. They represented potential, anchored deeply by her influence. As she concluded her address and stepped back, the applause was overwhelming. It was a tangible acknowledgement not only of her contribution but also of her powerful redefinition of value within the elite circle. Patrons who had earlier mirrored scorn revisited their preconceptions. They now scrambled to bridge new attentions. Meanwhile, those directly involved with Leah and the garden from the onset scrambled for apologies or excuses. Some approached with careful praise, while others, letting the moment pass, retreated quietly, seeking obscurity to salvage dignity dismantled by immediate revelations. The head gardener's fixated eyes shadowed each shift with fervent contemplation. The reality slowly folded around him. It was a story of discovery, gentleness, and enduring potential, composed not of accolades, but of the immutable commitment Leah so effortlessly exuded through rain and sunlight alike. Her orchid was both a scientific triumph and graceful metaphor. Its story enriched the garden, the sudden recognition reaffirming a nobler stance on nature's wealth. Its presentation underscored Leah's message, collective cultivation balanced by appreciation. As the final notes of gratitude and reverence settled into the hushed greenscape, Leah remained poised. Her eyes scanned the exuberant greenery beyond the glass, seeing far past its present vista toward future growth uncurtailed by limitations of past narrow-minded perceptions. Finally, she allowed herself to rest, met with the warm embrace of acceptance amid the newly unified voices appreciating novelty and time through measures older than hidden as much in soil as light. It was, indeed, a garden forever altered in every essence by her deft, quiet hand. The energy inside the elegant greenhouse was palpable, laughter and voices mingling with the subtle rustling of leaf and petal. The garden, which had seen so much on this storm-clouded day, now basked in a sense of redemption, transformed by Leah Price's quiet revelation. Once the applause for Leah's presentation began to dwindle, the garden's patron took the stage once more. It was clear he intended to address more than her glowing accomplishments. There was an undercurrent of resolve in his voice. "There is something else to be learned here," he began, garnering attention with a sweep of sincerity. "Today taught us about discovery and the potential overlooked by assumptions." His gaze settled on the head gardener, who stood, awkward and tense, among the guests. It was a silent invitation, a call to acknowledgement that couldn't be ignored. In an instant, the head gardener knew his expertise at maintaining exclusivity had public reflections demanding reconciliation. "We need to celebrate all contributions," the patron continued, regardless of whether they arrive in fancy attire or work boots. "A lesson we've clearly revisited tells us that meaningful value doesn't come from ornamental appearances but from what thrives beneath them." The crowd, acutely aware of the event's earlier dynamics, shifted subtly towards support of this decisive correction. Leah's humble unveiling had forged a communal recognition of inclusivity's virtues. The head gardener, his expression a mix of regret and understanding, stepped forward amid the careful eyes of the assembly. The authority he'd wielded felt incongruous now, frail under the new light of awareness. "I owe this garden an apology," he started, his voice steadying as he continued. "And more importantly, to Ms. Price, for failing to see the deeper roots beneath her presence among us." Murmurs of agreement spread, and some nodded in encouragement. "Only when we truly open our eyes can we appreciate the beauty before us, and today has opened mine," he added. It was an assertion met with tempered approval by patrons and staff alike. With the patron's reprimand understood, Leah's virtues uplifted, he bowed slightly, a formal concession rendered to grace more finely wrought than any accolade in his past, a concession to collective fellowship instead of solo endeavor. The aftermath of the acknowledgement created an organic momentum within the greenhouse, where people dispersed with conversations now freely dedicated to inclusivity, fueled by the gardeners and Leah's entwined stories. Among the discussions, those who had mocked Leah initially now circled with insights on unity rather than derision. While the event took its new, unexpected course, the ramifications soon extended beyond those inside the glass halls. Whispers traveled swiftly, finding discussive life through tendrils of social media and vehicles of exchange, recounting the narrative of transformation under shared skies. Images and videos from the day's events, a testament to Leah's resilience and the garden's meeting of barriers and beauty, spread widely. The encounter became emblematic of a shift, one in which elitism and openness chilled their contrasts to support horticulture's grand experiment in diversity. The gardener, facing professional consequences of his judgment, accepted his demotion with reflective grace rather than defying critique. Acknowledging the need for growth, he committed to learning from both his mistakes and the neck-out flowering of his rigid mores. Thus, he embarked on sessions in customer service training and horticultural recovery, his journey one of humility and acceptance into genuine value. Meanwhile, Leah, having sown unity among steadfast blooms, found herself in moments uniquely personal and lasting just beyond the garden's primary inception. Her solitary glances turned corner, unexpected visitor to newfound advocate. In one such moment, while exploring the recently solemn gardens, she happened upon the gardener, his movements pensively deliberate as he tended to an orchid, each gesture mindful of the afternoon's lessons. Not expecting her, he paused, awkward yet sincere in the silence between them. "Miss Price, Leah," he began, the words signaling a shift from perception to personhood. "I'm deeply sorry for the way I approached you. Thank you for guiding me," he finished, each word carefully chosen, each a stone in building a new path forward. Leah considered his apology, recognizing the warm threads of sincerity sewn through it. With her characteristic grace, she nodded, acknowledging his bearing with a soft smile. It wasn't retaliation but redemption she sought, rooted deeply in the earth of empathy. The gardener watched her briefly before comprehending this silent acceptance as more poignant than forgiveness, an opportunity for a dedicated resurgence not previously imagined. In the sun-dappled shadows of the now hushed grounds, relationships were subtly rewoven, beliefs reshaped to wield understanding in place of preconception, all shaded by the overarching palms and arched fenestrations. As Leah turned away, her steps marked by hard-brushed sunlight, she felt the responsibility she accepted in the awareness of others. Preferably, honesty's warmth became her farewell, signaling resilience charged with transformative potential. Behind her, patrons and staff marked these parting views unitedly, knowingly, spectators now continuing their journey from that day's shift toward inclusive understanding. The garden, too, shone beneath its guardian glass, guided by truth's reconciliation. Leah's figure faded into a weighted reinvention past the pathways, embodying the natural rhythm of arrival, lesson, and departure. Her tail lingered, fresh among the foliage. Her silhouette echoed a unity born anew from the gardens beneath its royal, open skies. Thus, forever altered, the garden became a living testament to spirit, unfolding its leaves toward harmony, proof found anew as every orchid loosened its petals, reveling together or alone, beneath rain or sun's gentle embrace.